Good morning. Today is Friday, April 21st, 2023. A person fulfills the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles by lighting even a single light. The general custom is to light 2 lights. Some people have the custom to light more than that, so each person has their custom, but the most widespread custom is to light 2 lights. Why 2? Because there are 2 psukim, 2 verses that relate to Shabbos observance in the Torah. Both of them, it's one verse, one pasuk in the Aseret Dibros, the 10 Commandments, but in the Torah, it's written in 2 different ways in 2 places. One is Zachar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadsho, remember the Shabbos day to keep it holy. And the other is Shamar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadsho, guard or protect the Shabbos day to keep it holy. And as we say in our prayers, Shamar v'Zachar b'dibur echad, God spoke those 2 words at the same moment, something that it's not possible for a human being to do. There is this internal connection between Shamar and Zachar. What do they mean? So, the general understanding we have is that Shamar, to guard, to protect Shabbos, relates to the 39 categories of activity that we do not do on Shabbos. There are biblical prohibitions, there are rabbinic prohibitions. So we desist from all different types of activity in order to protect Shabbos, to guard Shabbos. Zachar, to remember Shabbos, we fulfill that with positive actions. We mark Shabbos at the beginning, at the end, and at the end. We mark Shabbos at the beginning by saying the prayer of Kiddush, which expresses the sanctity, the holiness of the day of Shabbos, and we mark it at the end with the ceremony of Havdalah, where we contrast the spirituality of Shabbos, which is coming to an end, and the beginning of the mundane work week. We have other positive mitzvos by which we remember the holiness of Shabbos. There's a mitzvah to honor Shabbos in the way that we dress. There's a mitzvah to enjoy Shabbos in the delicious foods that we have. And we remember the Shabbos day and the holiness of Shabbos through prayer. So, what I'd like to do with you is to explore the role of prayer specifically as it relates to Shabbos observance, furthering this mitzvah of Zachar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadsho, remembering the Shabbos day to keep it holy. Let's go back to Shamar, guarding, protecting Shabbos. What is the reason for that mitzvah? How do we define what are the actions that we do not do on Shabbos? So we've discussed before, there are 39 categories of activity that we desist from on Shabbos, and those 39 categories of activity are the 39 categories of activity that were used by the Jewish people to build the Mishkan, the sanctuary in the desert that later became the Beis HaMikdash. So whatever action, whatever activity, whatever kind of work was necessary to do to build that, it is from those activities that we desist on Shabbos. Why should that be the definition? One could come up with various definitions of what kind of activity not to do on Shabbos. Why specifically whatever was done in the Mishkan? So I've shared with some of you before the opinion of the Vilna Gaon, the Gra, Rabbi Eliyahu of Vilna, who says that the 39 types of activity that were done to build the Mishkan are a human version of the actions God performed to create the universe. Bereshis bara Elokim. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. How did God create heaven and earth? Well, God, and again, I'm using words applying to God, which is in a way that we're not really able to understand because God is beyond our understanding and God's work, so to speak, or activity is beyond our understanding. But God engaged in 39 types of activity in order to create the universe. And when we, the Jewish people, were commanded to build the Mishkan, what we were actually commanded was to build a microcosm of what God created. So there is a parallel between God's creation of heaven and earth and our creation of the Mishkan. So when we desist from 39 categories of activity that were done to build the Mishkan, we are really desisting from the actions that God, so to speak, employed to create the world. And that is what it means that we rest on Shabbos. God created the world in 6 days and rested on Shabbos. We imitate God by working 6 days and then we rest on the Shabbos. The way that we rest on the Shabbos is to desist from those activities that were done to create the world. And if you take what God did and you translate them into human terms, that is what is comprised by the 39 activities done to create the Mishkan. Okay, we rest in order to imitate God. But there's a second reason. Because if it is correct, which we quote in our prayers, Shamar v'zachar b'dibor echad, that God commanded protecting and guarding Shabbos, which means not to do 39 categories of activity, and remembering Shabbos are b'dibor echad, one word, meaning they are intrinsically intertwined, then that leads us to understand that we rest, we desist from certain activities in order to attend to remembering Shabbos. In other words, we free ourselves from some activities in order to make time for other activities. Shamar, desisting from work on Shabbos, is how we make room for Zachar, to create the mood of Shabbos, the atmosphere of Shabbos. And one of the main ways that we do that is through prayer. Now, Shabbos prayers overlap with daily prayers. Many of them are the same, and those prayers, of course, have the same themes and the same goals as daily prayer. But on Shabbos, there are additional prayers that are specific to Shabbos, and they have the specific goal of helping us create the mood of Shabbos, the atmosphere of Shabbos. Prayer is an important element to allow us to fulfill Zachar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadsho, remembering the Shabbos day to keep it holy. So we are freed from certain kinds of work in order to have additional time to be able to spend in prayer, among other things. So, over a number of days in the coming weeks, I'd like to look with you at prayer on Shabbos as a unit and to see how and what they help us create on Shabbos. And let's start at the beginning. We start with Kabbalat Shabbat, Kabbalat Shabbos, honoring and receiving the Shabbos, accepting the Shabbos. And this is a prayer service that we have on Friday night. Tonight we have Kabbalat Shabbos. It is before Ma'ariv, the evening prayer. And this service consists of 6 paragraphs of Tehillim, of Psalms, followed by a poem, the poem of Lecha Dodi, which is perhaps the most sublime expression of the spirit of Shabbos. Lecha Dodi likras kala, come, my beloved, to greet the bride. Pnei Shabbos nekabla. Let us welcome Shabbos. We personify Shabbos as a bride. Now, who is speaking and who is the beloved? Well, it's not spelled out. Many commentators understand it is the Jewish people speaking to God. Let's go together. Let's greet the Shabbos as something that is special, something that is necessary for us, something that we look forward to, for which we have passion. Shamar v'zachar b'diborecha, that line comes from this poem. The word shamar and the word zachar were said by God as one word. Likras Shabbos l'chu v'nelcha, let us go and greet the Shabbos, ki hi makar habracha, because Shabbos is the source of blessing. There's an idea of our sages that everything good that happens in the coming week has its seed. The source of its blessing is from the Shabbos that precedes it. Kumi tz'i mitoch ha'afecha. Get up from your ruined state. Rav loch sheves be'emek habacha. You have sat long enough in the valley of tears. Shabbos is the time to get up from the valley of tears, to get up from the ruined state in which we find ourselves during the week. Hisnari me afar kumi. Shake yourself off the dust that has accumulated during the week. Livshi bigdei sif artechami, and put on your clothes of glory. A different mood, a different attitude, a different atmosphere when Shabbos begins. Kvod Hashem alayech nigla. The glory of God is revealed to us on Shabbos. This is the potential of Shabbos, that we can reach through Shabbos prayers. Kvod Hashem alayech nigla. The glory of God can be revealed to us through Shabbos. Yasis alayech elokayech. God rejoices with us. Kimsos chasan al kala. With the joy that a groom celebrates with his bride. The passion, the intimacy is what can express our relationship with God, especially on Shabbos. Boi v'shalom ateres ba'ala. Come in peace, crown of her husband. Gam b'simcha v'tzahala. Come with joy and jubilation. Toch emunei am segula. Among the faithful of the treasured people. Boi kala, boi kala. Enter, bride. Enter, bride. Enter Shabbos. Magnificent, magnificent poem written by Rosh Shlomo Alkovitz in Tzfat in the 1500s. So we begin Shabbos with a vision of what this Shabbos day can be for us, what it can do for us, the value it holds for us. We start with that vision expressed so beautifully in Lecha Dodi. But the service itself, Kabbalat Shabbat, remember again I said, there are 6 paragraphs of Tehillim, of Psalms, followed by Lecha Dodi. 6 paragraphs of Tehillim. The paragraphs of Tehillim are not about Shabbos. The 6 paragraphs correspond to the days of the week. In fact, the theme of those 6 paragraphs of Psalms that we say first is the opposite of Shabbos. In the first paragraph, we say these words. We start, L'chu neranan al Hashem, come let us sing a song of joy to God. But that paragraph ends with the following words, Arba'im shana akut bedar. For 40 years, God says, I argued with that generation of Jews that left Egypt. V'amar am to'e levheim. And I said, they are a people whose hearts go astray. Heim lo yadu derachai, they do not understand my ways. V'asher nishbati ba'api, and God says, I swore in my anger against them, im yavo'en el menuchasi, they're not going into Israel. Okay, thank God it didn't work out that way, but I mean, we start off with the difficulty, with the problems we have, with the challenges, with the downtimes that we've had. That's how we start this prayer service. And then by the end of the 6th paragraph of Tehillim, we have reached the stage where we say the last line, Hashem oz la'amo yitain, God gives strength to his people, Hashem yivarech es amo b'shalom. God blesses his people with peace. So what Kabbalat Shabbat is a gradual shift from weekday to Shabbos. It's a transition from the pressures of the week to the ecstasy of Shabbos. And this is what we should be feeling during these prayers, this gradual standing taller, this gradual feeling that the weight and heaviness of the week is dissipating. This, at the beginning of Shabbos, is the moment to get up from the ruins that we may have experienced during the week. Hisnari me'afar kumi, we get up and we shake off the dust that is accumulated around us and on us during the week. It is this gradual transition. And during Kabbalat Shabbat, what I try to practice, I'm not always successful, but what I try to do, I try to think in my mind that as I'm saying these paragraphs gradually, one to the next, there is the shedding of the spirit of the work week. The weight I try to feel lifting off my shoulders. The prayers of Kabbalat Shabbat are the bridge, the transition from the work week into the mood and atmosphere of Shabbos. My friends, I wish you a great day and a beautiful, ecstatic Shabbos. Start it with Kabbalat Shabbat and let that be a bridge that helps you transition from one world to a completely different world. I wish you a wonderful Shabbos, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.